In this video, we're going to take a look at hyperlinks. Yay! So hyperlinks, of course, are one of the main technologies of the internet. When Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web, he started by um, this idea that documents could have links that would lead you to other documents. And then you could distribute those documents to different parts of the world and interconnect people all over the planet. And so links are a pretty important piece of a web page. I've given you a starter file. It's the same starter file that we've used in previous assignments. And it's just a place to start coding so you don't have to start from scratch. All right, let's do this. I think I'm just going to clear the text from this paragraph and we'll just work inside this paragraph for just to begin with, right? Okay, hyperlinks. So the code for a hyperlink starts with an A, which is counterintuitive. A stands for anchor, and anchor is the tag, the HTML tag that hyperlinks use. They don't do much of anything by themselves, and so the first attribute that we're going to include is called href. Href stands href. Href stands for hyperreference, and a hyperreference is a technical name for a hyperlink. This is an attribute, and so all attributes need values. So we say equals, and then we need to determine what it is we're linking to. So in quotation marks, as all values should be in quotation marks, we tell it what we're linking to. If we're linking to something that's out there on the World Wide Web, then we need to include the entire URL, including the protocol. So http://. You can't leave that part out. We're used to leaving that part out when we work in browsers like Chrome or Safari or Internet Explorer because it'll put it in for us. It doesn't disappear, it doesn't go away. It might be invisible, but it's always there in your web browser. In our HTML code, it's very important that we include it in there because if we don't, then HTML doesn't know if we're linking to a web page or if we're linking to a file or what we're linking to. So very important that you include that protocol. Then we'll go to www.cheese.com, second best website in the world. Okay, now we have our opening tag. Here, this is our tag, HTML tag, and this is our attribute. But now we need some text that's going to stand on the page so that we have something to click on to activate the link. So here's a link to cheese. All right. And now we need to close our tag. If our opening tag was technically A, what's our closing tag? /A. And that is the entire code for a hyperlink. All right, so if we save this, and then bear with me, I'm opening this in Chrome. Here it is. So here's our website in Chrome, and you'll notice that we have a hyperlink. So if I click on the hyperlink and wait for it, there's cheese.com. Hooray! And then if I hit the back button, it takes us back to our page. You'll notice at this point in time, the link has turned purple. It used to be blue, and now it's purple. The reason for that is that HTML keeps track of the states of the link. If it's a new link that you've never been to before, it's blue and underlined. If you've been there and come back, now it's considered a visited link. And visited links are purple by default, just to indicate that you've been there before. There are some other states that we'll get into once we get into CSS, but for now, we'll just think about those two states. Speaking of those two states, you can control them a little bit. So you might recall in the past, we've done things like we've made our background color black, and then we've made our text white, right? And that allowed us to universally, by doing these as attributes of the body tag, this allowed us to universally change the way this page functions. But you can see that our link, our visited link, is still purple, even though the background is black. It's actually kind of harder to see right now. I just wanted to show you that in a similar way, you can break into this tag, into this into this tag, body tag, with a new attribute. You can have link equals maybe orange, which is going to be ugly. If I do this and I refresh right now, it's not going to have any difference. because this isn't a link, it's a visited link. And so for visited links, I can say vlink, V for visited, equals green. Right? So if I do that, this link is now green because it's a visited link. Okay? So if I go back to my tag, my code, and maybe I'm going to be real lazy and copy and paste this and then change out the page to maybe estrellamountain.edu. Okay, so here's a link to EMCC. Now, if we go back and look at the page, you'll notice that EMCC is orange because it has not been visited. So if I click on that, and I go to EMCC, and then I go back, now it's green. Okay, I do have a problem right here because now that these are both green, and they're on the same line as each other, it looks like it's all one link. So if we go back to our code, we'll notice that these two link tags are separate, and they're on different lines, but in the rendered web page, they appear to be on the same line. All right, what's going on here is that a link or a hyperlink or an A tag is a good example of what's referred to as an inline tag. Inline tags are in line so that you could use them within a paragraph without forcing a line break. So for instance, I could take this Australian Mountain tag and copy it, and I could go into the middle of this paragraph, and I'm just looking for a good space to put it, and I could drop that right in the middle of the paragraph. And then when I refresh the page, okay, there's the link in the middle of the paragraph. Now, of course, I didn't retype the sentence, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the point is that you can highlight any word or sentence or portion of a paragraph and turn it into a link without leaving the context of the paragraph. And so you can have, and so that's called an inline tag. Now, if you want your tags to be on separate lines, a couple ways to do it. One way is that you can start and stop in your paragraph. Okay, so now this tag is inside one paragraph, and this tag is inside another paragraph. These spaces are ignored. They don't mean anything. Right? So you can do something like that, in which case your tags would be seen. Oops. Sorry about that. Let me go back to the page it was on. Now your tags would be seen as two separate paragraphs. Another way to do it is called a line break. So instead of making them two separate paragraphs, we could actually go to the end of this text right here, and we could put in a BR, which is a line break, BR for break, which is like hitting enter on the keyboard. It forces the next content down to the next line. Please notice the syntax right here. I did BR space slash. The reason I did that is BR is one of the few HTML tags that does not have a closing partner. You might remember from the about assignment, we had the IMG tag. And anytime you have a tag that does not have a closing partner, there is no /BR, then good practice is to make that tag a self-closing tag. And that just gives a little signal to the browser that it doesn't have to go and look for a closing tag. There isn't one. All right, so BR space slash. And that will have the effect of putting this on the next line, but it's not a new paragraph, so there's no paragraph spacing between the lines. Okay, let me show you, excuse me, still working on this cough. Let me show you one other kind of a link. This kind of a link is not spectacular, I'll be honest, but there's a variety of link where instead of href for hyperreference, you can put in the keyword mail to, colon, no, I'm sorry, you don't put it instead of the href, you put in both. Href equals mail to, and then at the end of the colon here, you can put your email address. So this, as you might imagine, will, instead of opening a web page, it will email whoever is listed at this email address. You still need text to appear on the page to activate the link. All right, and so the full thing looks like this. And one thing is that you should know is that I do not expect this to work. And let's test it. And here's, click here to email Jim. It's orange because it has not been visited yet. And I'm going to click on that, and it actually brought this up, which surprises me. All right, so let me explain what that's all about. Oh, I just closed my browser window. I should have hit back instead, rats. So to explain what this is all about, the way a mail to tag works is that it will open the active default email client on your computer and begin to compose an email with this address as the recipient of the email. There are other attributes you can actually include here that will set the subject line and things like that as well. So yeah, the one problem with this kind of tag is that it presupposes that the user, the end user, has an email client configured on their computer. By email client, I'm talking about something like Outlook, or on Macintosh you have Mail, the Mail program that comes with Macintosh, or on a phone you do typically have a Mail program, right? However, a lot of times these days people use webmail or Gmail, stuff like that, right? So instead of accessing their email through an email client, they might access their email through a web page. And so most of the time, these mail to links will fail because the recipient or the user doesn't have an email client configured to be activated. Sometimes what happens is it'll open up the program if it exists on the computer, like Outlook or Apple Mail, but if that program is not configured, it's not any use to you, right? What mine did is that it recognized a web-based mail system that I've used before, and it opened it up. It opened up the web page, so that was a little bit surprising. So regardless, this might behave in various ways, not all of which are good. Eventually, in class, I'm going to show you how to create a form-based email. So that is a way to send an email from a web page that's not dependent on the user's email program. But for now, be aware of the mail to link. All right, I'm going to stop this here for now. Later in the semester, we'll learn about more types of links. We'll learn about relative links and navigation links, a variety of other kinds of links. But for now, this will get you started. You can create links to any website that has a web address or an email address for that matter.